Welcome to the worst nightmare of all. Reality.
Explore the lesser-known stories of our unknown world. Join the pursuit of the paranormal with Ash and Greg.
Hey everyone, I'm Greg.
I'm Ash.
We're Pursuit of the Paranormal, which you'll probably know because you're listening to our podcast. But there are several ways that you could support the show. You can visit our merchandise store, where we've got loads of clothing and other bits and bobs there for you.
And we also have launched our Buy Me a Coffee campaign.
Tell me a little bit more about that, Ash.
Yes, you can support the show with a one-off donation, or you can also join our membership scheme, which gives you different benefits, including shout-outs on the show, discount on the merchandise store, early access to episodes, bonus episodes, all of these different levels of membership. It just helps us carry on doing what we're doing.
So you can visit all these places and more at our linktree.com/Pursuit of the Paranormal. Thanks for joining us. So we're joined by Patrick and Don. It is Don, isn't it?
Yes, sir, Don. Yep. I've heard a lot of different names people introduce me as, so that's pretty close, you know.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. You hail from Montana, and an area that we're going to talk about, Redgate, and some weird stuff has been happening down in Redgate. So do you guys want to tell us all about Montana and Redgate itself? What makes it so weird?
I can start out here. So just the overall vision of where this area is. Montana, Western Montana, there's nothing but mountain ranges everywhere. And Deer Lodge is a kind of a deep valley with two big mountain ranges on both sides of this valley. And on one side of the valley, you have these mountains that there used to be mining camps up at and everything else. And that side, there's an area called Redgate that stretches across the mountains into the Continental Divide, and it's just a broad area up there. And generally speaking, why it's called Redgate was back in the mining days where basically this town, originally people lived out of town up in the mountains mining, and the valley just was there to come down to the river or whatnot. And back in the day when they had mining camps up there, this guy had this homestead. It was an area called Emery. It was the Emery mine. And this guy had a homestead not too far from there. And he came home from work one day, took an axe, chopped up his wife, chopped up his two kids. And then the next day, he woke up and people said they saw him painting his gate red with their blood.
Jesus Christ.
That's where Redgate came from. Yep.
That's where the name Redgate came from, the original story. We were told this along campfires as kids as like being a folklore story. But now not only is it seeming like it's true, Don knows where the homestead is, and apparently there's a guy up there, one of the guys that found in Deer Lodge, that changed all the colors of his gate to green because he didn't want to be associated with Redgate. Is that correct, Don?
Yeah. Yeah, once, and that was, 50, 60, 70 years ago. He didn't want that dark connotation going with his ranch because it was known that Redgate was almost an evil entity.
Obviously, you said that you heard it around like the stories and whatnot. Was it more of an urban legend thing back then, or did you guys know back that there was a place like that?
There was a place. The place always existed, but it felt like growing up as kids, it felt like it was based on an urban legend, right? Would you say that, Don?
Yeah, it was more of a folklore for sure. And the deeper we've got into this, we're starting to realize that there's a lot of truth to it for sure.
I think looking back at it right now, I kind of feel anyways, I'm not sure about Don. I feel like maybe they tried to bury the truth of what happened and played it off like a folklore tale, because a lot of small communities do that and they don't want to spook people and stuff. Because the details we've uncovered this past year, it looks like it's a pretty true story. Yeah.
Right.
So Patrick, you're a filmmaker and you're releasing a film called Redgate about the strange things going on. So what else sort of strange stuff that's going on in Redgate?
So there's quite a bit to unravel here. We'll start out with I got a little bit of timeline. So just to kind of go off when this all occurred, one of the weirdest things is the town was originally founded by Native Americans, and they were called the Métis people. And they kind of disappeared, and these European white settlers came in. A lot of people thought the town was actually created on an Native American burial massacre grounds, and that's why a lot of people think the town was haunted to begin with. So that's kind of where it starts out with, and then you have the mines and Redgate area and everything else. But when it comes back to like the first recorded case of like aliens, UFOs, and things of that nature, these kids growing up in the Redgate area as adults, they went through past regression hypnosis. You guys know what past regression hypnosis is? Yeah. So you go back in these old traumatic memories and everything, and they went back and to when they were kids in 1950, and they'd experienced these crazy memories of these aliens they met as kids, called gray friends in the woods down by a river, and they found like a spacecraft and they got on board, all this crazy stuff as they're doing this past regression hypnosis. This original documentary is called The Secret of Redgate. It's on YouTube, and they describe these creatures that are about 4 feet high, gray with huge black eyes. And for several years, they would meet up with them, and it was just a very weird situation. And that's kind of where the beginning of the alien UFO paranormal stuff started happening in the Redgate area. And from that was like 1950. Then from 1955 on, you have stories of people driving in the mountains in the area, reporting sights of big bright lights in the sky hovering about them. It's just a lot of bizarre stuff, right, Don? Like the UFO stuff still happening today.
It's still to this day. Actually, most every sightings, and it's always something. Every year we hear something new. Yep.
So you mentioned those adults that went under the regression, and they found out what happened when they were kids. Do you know whether there was a reason why they initially went under that regression?
These guys, I think they felt like a lot of things happened to them as kids, and they didn't quite understand what was going on or whatnot. And there's this guy named Jim Mars. He was a lifelong UFO alien investigator, and he had gotten a hold of them, and they had met up, and he wanted to do a documentary on this area called Redgate originally. This is like 20 years ago. And I think they kind of volunteered and said, yeah, we feel like there's some memories that are a little bit scrambled that we remember as kids that we can't quite remember the full details of. And I think they wanted to go back and get those full details out of exactly what happened.
That's cool. So what about you? How did your sort of interest in this sort of happen initially?
Oh, me?
Yeah, but start with Patrick, but both of you.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
So for me initially, I was interested in, as a filmmaker, I was going to start working on my 5th full-length feature film, and I was building more of a folklore horror story around Redgate, around the original tale, and we're going to make a horror film, all these different things. So that's where I started getting interested into it. And then as I progressed on this way of, I wanted to research some stuff and do some true storytelling about the area of Redgate, build the story up and everything else. And then I started to find out that everything that I was starting to research was actually true. And it kind of got me in more and more deeper down this rabbit hole to where the point was, this fictional horror film suddenly turned into a real life, documentary pretty much. It went from like, mostly untrue or just fictional to 100% accurate. And that's kind of what got me into it. And then I met up with Don, and that kind of changed things, where he caught an actual like fucking alien thing on his hunting camera a couple of years ago.
Right. That's pretty much how I got thrown into the deal. I when I was in my young 20s, I worked for a ranch, and I came across a true cattle mutilation, which was very wild to me because that was the first glimpse or taste of anything I've had in that paranormal field. And fast forward 10 years, I ran an outfitter business, and I had a bunch of trail cameras, and I posted one up on this ranch I worked for. It's like 10,000 acres, and checked the camera. Camera was completely fried. It still doesn't take a picture to this day, but the last image it took was this iconic image. It's went around the world now. And so not so much by choice, but once this hit the public eye, I definitely got thrown into this for sure.
Definitely a very interesting. We'll put it up on our social medias.
Cool.
So me and Ash were just as well. We found it fascinating that like you just mentioned, the camera from the last photo taken by that camera was this particular image of a kind of humanoid being
Right.
yeah.
Reptilian, Arcturian, trespasser, person. Yeah.
And also understand that this person, this thing was not captured on any of the other trail cams
Right.
that were located, which is even more weird as well. So how close were the other cameras? What kind of?
On a distance wise, I would say I had probably 6 cameras within 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet of this particular one, and I checked all those on the way up. This was the last one on the main draw coming out of there, and they didn't have anything. They had some elk and some bears, some mountain lions, but nothing out of the ordinary. And then I get to the last one, and I'm like, oh, I've had batteries in this for 2 months, and it's completely dead. Put new batteries in, and in that moment, when I got the image, I was also going through the camera to get it set up again, and every setting I put it on, it just glitched. It never worked since then.
So the image is quite a humanoid sort of
Right.
figure that you can see. Very creepy looking. Is there other reasons why you think it's not a human?
I think the main reasoning for me, and I mean, I questioned it right off the bat, was, oh, I got a trespasser. And then I thought about it and I was like, wow, this is truly in the middle of nowhere and nobody can be at this spot legally. And the direction it's walking is 5 miles from any public road, late at night in October with no pack or no distinctive features. So actually I went back through and recreated the photo. I went through the exact same spot because I was on the Proof is Out There on History Channel, and they debunked the photo. They broke it down, made sure I didn't Photoshop it. So I really wanted to try to recreate it. And there's that probably pushed me on one side for sure, is when I did the comparison and looked at myself, and even though I'm blurry at night, it's still distinctive. You can still see my hat and my coat and my jeans and my boots. That image, there's no distinctive features at all.
No, it's definitely a weird image. Like you say, no, it blurs a bit, but it is an odd picture.
I mean, I'm looking at it now, and it's I don't know, it's creeping me out a little bit. Just looking at it.
Yeah, I have to clarify by Don saying debunking this History Channel special came on. They fully verified it as being a legit photo. They fully analyzed it, verified it as a legit photo. And so they pulled some random fucking lady out of their ass somewhere that has no background whatsoever in analyzing these things. She's just some random lady that, she's a geologist or something. She's like, no, that's fucking human. I've seen coyotes on trail cams before, and that's human. It was like, and they left out a ton of details. Because first of all, this is basically on private property. It's late at night, end of October in Montana, up in the mountains. Like no human being would be up there. If they were going up there, this is on a trail, they'd be going north and south. They would not be going like east and west.
Right. You can't go east to west.
You can't. Yeah. So yeah, there's no way of you'd have to form conspiracy to think this is a human. It'd be very difficult to prove this is a human.
Right.
So you get this photo off your oil cam. How do you two both end up meeting as a result of this photo?
I got it in 2018, and I'd say about 2 years later, I came across Pat. I've known Pat since I was, 8 or 9, but we haven't seen each other. And I just randomly, as I do now, especially in my life, hey man, you want to see something weird? Tell me what you think this is. And that's my verbiage, because I don't lean one side or the other. I want to hear what other people think. And Pat looked at it, he's like, oh, that's fucked up. Yeah, that's a pretty common reaction. And then we sat down like maybe a year later, or maybe less. I said, hey, let's integrate this into your film and add the whole Redgate history and legacy in a sense.
Don had contacted me to be on a local TV show with him because I was investigating the Redgate area already at the time, and he had the photo and yes, I showed up on the TV thing and I started seeing his photo again and everything. And I was like, oh shit, and then we started, I was in the middle of filming Redgate, and that's when things kind of took a turn where it's like, oh wait, maybe there's a lot more to this area than I ever imagined. And that's where I started uncovering a lot of things at that point.
Yep.
What's the response been like from the UFO community, like or alien community? In like obviously it went around the world, like you say, it's been obviously in
Right.
British newspapers, Australian newspapers. What's the response been from like from I guess the peers of the UFO community?
Well, most people, Montana being as back in time frame as it is, and most people don't understand what a trail camera is. It's actually funny to see the response. It's like, oh, well, this guy took this picture of this alien, but it's Montana, so he obviously has a box camera. Like, oh, thank you. Like the comments on the sun in the mirror.
Yeah.
If I'm ever down, I'll just go read the comments because they just are hilarious.
That's like the general community there is skeptical pretty well, but like the actual UFO paranormal community, like the shows we've been on, the experts in the UFO paranormal stuff, almost all of them agree there's something there. It's a bizarre photo.
It's not humanoid.
Yeah, it's not humanoid. It's something very bizarre.
So what do you guys think it is?
Pat, you want to go first? Because I've answered this question a few times.
I know.
Maybe you have.
I think it's some kind of fifth dimensional reptilian being, maybe like a one of the Greys. And there's a lot here. But he was on a show months ago, and they said, this is not one of the good aliens. And
hostile. Yeah.
Hostile. I think it's traveling through dimensions and stuff because there is a big power source in the middle of Redgate. There's huge power lines, and I think it's trying to go between dimensions and stuff, and just happen to get caught on camera doing so.
So, it's funny. I was very skeptical, and I've very wavered on one side or the other on this. Pat has a really good point. There's a big power line that runs through there, a huge power grid system, and they say if that energy gets out of sync, it creates a black hole, which is a big source for these traveling beings, whatever they may be. I've heard everything from reptilian to Arcturian to gray to skinwalker to human. I've a glitch of the camera. Like I've really heard it all. My personal opinion, I would like to be on the line. It could be an alien. I don't believe it's a person. Like Pat said earlier, you'd have to have a conspiracy theory against it being
it's
human.
A fucking fifth dimensional reptilian, Don.
Oh, that's right. You're paying me $200 to say that. It's a fifth dimensional reptilian. They're hostile by nature, and you got to shoot them with plasma bullets to kill them. Thank you, Pat.
No, I don't really know. I'm guessing. I'm guessing on previous estimations, but that's what I think it's something. But the reptilian thing and the idea of coming through dimensions, I like that, but I would say I don't.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
Right. It could be a spirit.
Yeah.
There's an old homestead about 200 feet from where this picture was taken. And there's an old folklore about a horse fighter from Minnesota coming to Montana and being killed by the natives in that same draw. So it could be a spirit. I've heard that one. I'd say off of other people's reaction, it's 70% alien or paranormal, 20% spirit, and the remaining is a human. That's probably how those stats break down.
It definitely looks like it's got solidity to it, rather than sort of being a kind of a. So we speak to a lot of people about interdimensional beings, and so apart from the reptilian bit, I could go with that.
Yeah. If you look at it, it looks like a little bit of a jaw. That's why I think it looks a little reptilian, and the way they described reptilian, I think it's an interesting perspective on it.
Yeah.
I just keep looking at it, and it look like it's looking towards the camera. Obviously it's quite blurry, you can't really tell, but it seems to look like it is sort of like it's glanced towards the camera.
And I've heard that before, that it's actually shape shifting. The camera caught it, and when it alerted it shifted out of its form or being, and I caught it mid transition. So I've heard that one before too. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Trail cams caught any other kind of anomalous activity?
I have a couple other pictures under my belt. I mean, having 100+ cameras for the last 10 years, you're bound to get some weird stuff. I actually got this strange creature this last summer on a different ranch that I work in, still in the Redgate area, but both though, I have two pictures of this one creature, let's say, and it's unexplainable, probably a little bit more than my image itself.
There's one you have of that beam, like an alien beam going up into the sky.
Right. That's the only other one I have. Yep. I have a
Yeah.
perfectly symmetrical, oh, what'd you call that, Pat? Orb? No, not an orb.
Yeah, it was
It'd be
orb or something.
yeah, and it's got a light trail behind it at 2:30 in the morning in the middle of nowhere, just catching the edge of the camera. But you can see the full image. And like I said, it's got two recessed lines on it, but it's truly symmetrical. So it's also a questionable photo.
Mm.
Okay.
You've mentioned, Don, that your life you got thrown into the whole sort of thing because of this photo.
Right.
How has your opinion changed? So you said you sort of had no interest before then. Has your mind opened to all different sort of aspects that the world isn't how we think it is?
For sure. And I kind of hit on it a little bit earlier, but in, my early 20s, I did come across a mutilated cow on this ranch I worked for. I had a perfect 4 or 5 inch circle in its side. And I was there the day before and it was in the middle of a field. There was nothing there. The next day I go out, all I find is that hole in the cow and just skin and bones. No organs, no blood, no anything. That was my first experience or encounter with something that opened my mind up to say, maybe we're not alone. So when I got this image and I got thrown into it, I was very open-minded, but not like I am now. Like it's really interesting for me to go through this whole process and hear all kinds of opinions and different outlooks. Yeah, it's an interesting one.
So has there been other cases of cat mutilations or other mutilations in the area that you've come across?
Yep, still currently. I mean, a couple months ago.
Yeah, I just say, just to document this really quick, the first one known in the Redgate area was probably in 1923 was the first documented one where a rancher woke up, found one of his cows dead, the blood completely drained and certain organs removed. And then it keeps going to where, today we're Don, it's probably over 100 years it's happened, right, Don?
Right.
And you had something.
Yeah, because I'm almost the ambassador for the Redgate area at this point, and people approach me in confidence because I have this image. So then they feel that, they can share their paranormal story with me. I've heard a lot of wild ones, but a couple months ago, I had this girl I know, she reached out to me. She's a ranch manager for a ranch just down from Redgate. And she heard a sound the night before. And it was weird enough from a cow. She walked in and told her husband, something's up. Well, we'll check in the morning. And they went out and they found a cow. The ass and the udder was gone and the tongue was gone out of this cow. That was the only 3 things missing, and it was dead laying there. Still had its organs though, but those 3 main entities were missing.
Weird. Because that's completely sort of, for want of a better phrase, us in the UK, we don't really experience stuff like that. So
interesting.
So being on us working on the ranches, you would, if something isn't quite right, as it were. Any other sort of experiences that have been reported to you?
Oh yeah, I got 50. You know what I mean? I like.
There's
Pat too. We've heard so many at this point.
There's been a lot of bizarre appearances and UFOs. People just seeing bright lights in the sky. There's a couple out there from Pennsylvania just moved out there like a year ago, and they see stuff in the sky all the time. One of the weirdest things is how this is translated into how human beings have kind of acted in the Redgate area. There was a couple that lived in the Redgate area, and then this is a modern day story, basically, of the actual original story of Redgate. Almost, this guy, normal family, this guy just comes home to their it's like a cabin house up in the Redgate area, and he goes outside it after work. He comes home, takes his gun, shoots his 4-year-old son in the back of the head, shoots his 5-year-old son in the back of the head, goes inside the house, shoots their 15-month-old daughter in the head, shoots his wife in the head, then lays them all in a bed and sets the entire house on fire, and then shoots himself out of nowhere. Yeah. So you're like, is this like demonic possession, skinwalker type possession, or influence, or what is going on here?
And that's one of many. That's one of many.
Wow. So what do you think is affecting the area? I mean, clearly that's not normal behavior anyway.
Right.
And compare the original sort of Redgate story. That's both very similar kind of
I've had
stories.
Yeah. I've had a psychic tell me that because of the weird energy in the area that's kind of trapped here, and Don has a little bit of a story about the Continental Divide there he can get to, but that draws in a lot of these bizarre things into the area because it's like the stuck energy just kind of really bizarre in this valley. And we don't know if it was started from, the Native American massacre that took over the town, or the old prison old prison was in town. There's a lot of riots and murders happening in the prison in town. There's a lot of paranormal activity in the old prison museum today. And there's a lot of things here that we don't know. But Don, what was it? The Continental Divide, it like goes.
Yeah. So the Deer Lodge Valley itself, all the valley systems run east to west until it hits the Deer Lodge Valley, which runs north to south. And the thing about the Redgate area is it's sitting right on the Continental Divide, which, if you don't know what that is, in America here, all the water from the Continental Divide west flows into the Pacific Ocean. Everything east flows into the Atlantic. So, there's a correlation with tectonic plates and magnetic pole. And this being the very first valley going north to south on that divide, which is kind of a draw, like Pat said, for this energy, this stored energy. Yeah. You guys want to come to Montana?
Yeah, you should go to Montana sometimes.
I'll take you out there. Well, I'll take you close. I won't go there anymore,
but yeah, definitely up for that.
I just wanted to ask, for context, how big is Redgate in terms of like size or population?
The town itself is about 2,000 people right now?
We talking about Deer Lodge?
Redgate.
Redgate itself is probably Pat? It's got to be like 200 people. No, 100 people.
Yeah, something like that. Because Redgate
over 20 miles by
something like that.
10 miles probably.
Yeah, probably about 200 people. Because you're talking about ranchers and like rich people that own property up there and things of that nature. And you have a few like rundown like trailers and things of kind of some sketchy characters that live up there. You might say, but
off the grid.
Off the grid a little bit. So I'd say, probably about 100 to 200 people somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of stuff happening for a small place.
Yep.
Yeah. And people kind of move in and out of there. So it's not like the same people necessarily. Like people come in, like, these people from Pennsylvania just bought property up there a year ago and they just moved here. And so it's kind of hard to keep track of who's all going out. But it's almost like split between ranchers, very wealthy people, and then kind of maybe, you might call it your trailer park trash type crowd. You don't know.
Yeah, the lower class, off grid, solar panel, haul their water sort of people. Yeah.
Snorting meth, creating their own meth up there and stuff.
Oh, I didn't know you lived up there. No shit, huh?
Yeah. So I was just going to say, is there like the community itself? Are they kind of open to talk about it? Is it kind of you just keep it all to yourself?
No, it's keep it to yourself, because most of the people that live in the Redgate area are what's the word? Hermits, or they don't fit in society as well. It's truly a mountain property. It's not like there's a power line to run their power for their lights. Like it's off grid for sure.
Yeah, combined with hermits with no power and stuff to, again, wealthy people that just bought land up there. But even the people that are wealthy that bought land up there, you can only like snowmobile into their property half the year because of all the snow and everything.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah, very, very secluded. But people that just kind of want to get away from society and just be away from everything.
Yep.
So has there been any reports of like cryptids and creature or anything like that? Because we found that when we're talking to people, certainly areas where there's high activity of UFO, tends to be sort of paranormal activity, tends to be sort of cryptids. I just wondered if there's been kind of sightings in that particular, in the mountain areas.
I don't know for Dawn, but I've seen a few cryptids at the Montana bar the last couple of weeks.
I beat one at a pool table the other night for $20. So
if you've gone to Deer Lodge, you have to go to the Montana bar. You'll see a lot of cryptids down there. But as far as cryptids go, I've heard tales of stories of creatures and things What was that Bigfoot story? It was happening in Deer Lodge and they ended up going on the pass up to Helena or something like that. Or what was that?
Yeah,
story?
the World Weekly News. You gentlemen familiar with that tabloid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had an article they ran that in Deer Lodge itself they captured the very first Bigfoot, well, to be captured. And Pat, 40 miles from Deer Lodge is the state capital of Montana, which is Helena. Yeah. And there's a pass in between which crosses the Continental Divide.
So again, just to describe this a little bit for you guys to understand, like, so every other capital, besides Alaska, most capitals, you have the main highway goes to it. The capital of Montana, you have to go through, I won't say off-road, but it's like a one way or 2-lane highway. So you have one car on one side, one car going the other direction. So it's really weird mountain pass you got to go over to get to this capital.
Yep.
Anyways,
it's pretty remote. But yeah, so on top of the pass at the Continental Divide, Bigfoot broke out of this guy's trailer and just took off through the woods. And as the story goes, the Deer Lodge Sheriff's Department got a phone call from a guy in Texas, and he wanted to give $10,000 to take him to the spot with his dogs to go find where Bigfoot broke out so he could recapture it. Oh. Good old, they had Bat Boy, so well, that sounds about right for World Weekly News, you know.
Yeah.
Yes. So have you guys had any other kind of experiences, paranormal experiences, away from this particular issue, but anything that's happened to you personally?
I've been inside the old Montana prison here, and years ago we used to have a theater company inside the prison. They had a theater in the old Montana State Prison. We do theater shows up there, and we had all kinds of weird paranormal stuff happen there. During one theater play, people said, "Hey, you should guys be quiet for people that are on top of the roof. They're just walking around making a bunch of noise." And we're like, "We don't have access to the roof." Stuff like that. And then after the shows, we'd have keys to that place, and we just sneak in there when we were younger and do our own ghost tours through the cell blocks and all these different areas. And we got some weird, strange EVP and stuff that we use on our audio recorders of just really bizarre voices and things of that nature. And that's mainly the bulk of my experiences when it's happened in Deer Lodge and everything.
Yeah, I have that image obviously outside of Redgate. I wouldn't say I've had any. I saw some lights one time, but it's pretty questionable what it could have been. I'd say the only thing that adds to my story outside of my image is once it dropped on the History Channel. About a week later, I was working on the same ranch, and we came across a blacked out Suburban on the ranch trespassing. So I was going to confront him because you can't be there. And the vehicle burned out and drove by me and completely blacked out with no license plate when it drove by. And so it kind of is still tied to Redgate, but that was the only thing that made me question everything a little more.
Both of us have had multiple Men in Black type experiences. I woke up one day at my house and I went to the front of my window, my bay window in the back, to grab a glass of water, and I saw a black car parked outside in the alleyway, and looked at the black car that I usually drive. And I was like, well, maybe someone borrowed it, just parked it back there. So I didn't think anything about it. And then I went from the other side of the house, opened my other bay window up front, and the black car is parked out there. I was like, oh, that's my car right there. Then I was like, well, what was the car parked out back? So I went to the back window again, and it was like completely vanished, like facing a dead end, nowhere to go, just vanished like that. And that was one of the most bizarre experiences for me, because it's like, you can't plan it or predict it. I've been followed home with a weird vehicle one night after I was working pretty late, and I went to turn on the street to my house, and I was looking behind me because the vehicle was right behind me, and I was looking to see where it went, if it was going to turn, if it was going straight, or what it did, and it just vanished, like disappeared, like just completely vanished. So we've had multiple experiences that involve some kind of Men in Black type experience where it's like, okay, what is this about? Don had himself had a phone call from a high-level government contract with the U.S. The guy has lots of high-level NASA contracts and stuff. Contacted him out of nowhere, and he said some bizarre stuff to you about your alien photo, right?
Yeah, right off the bat, he said, I just want you to know I saw your image in the mirror, and I've been a big fan ever since it dropped. You need to know, though, that aliens don't exist, right? And I just sat there kind of in shock. And he goes, yeah, aliens don't exist because the government says they don't exist. That was his very first line, which was shocking to say the least. And then after our phone call, he said, okay, so you're familiar with the Men in Black, right? And I said, yeah. Okay, well, you just need to know that they're a real thing. It's a real entity. And this guy has the insight, I would say, for sure.
Yeah.
So who do you think these strange vehicles or men are? Are they government or are they something else?
Oh, good question. Good question. I think it could go either way. I think it could go either way.
I think
Personally.
it could. I agree. I think it could go either way. I think they're kind of keeping tabs on it to see where this whole thing goes and hoping. I think they're kind of hoping maybe we lead them to whatever we're trying to find here, and then they swoop in and do whatever. But I mean, we get the closer and closer we get these things, it seems like the more vehicles, the weird occurrences happen.
So where are you in your journey at the moment then? What are you guys looking into, or what is this journey?
So the film Redgate is pretty much done. That's gonna be released here in the next couple of months. But we're working on several other projects. Like currently working on a documentary with the area. We have a couple investigative crews that are going to come through this summer, and they're going to do some investigations on it. We have a TV show kind of in the works right now, and that's going to, we're going to use that to investigate some more. But that's kind of where we're at right now. But we're continuing to investigate and find new things, and we even have a guy that does CE5 meditations to attract aliens and ETs, and he wants to come up here and do a CE5 meditation in the Redgate area and see what we can find. So that's kind of where we're at right now. For the most part, yeah.
The movie that you mentioned earlier, the earlier one called The Secret of Redgate, from is it Linda Cowie and Jim Morris?
Linda Cohen, Jim Morris, yeah.
So their movie documentary, has quite a heavy feature on remote viewing. So
Yes.
The theme that runs through it. Is that something that you guys have considered or sort of looked into?
I haven't quite considered remote viewing yet. I've tried to kind of fiddle with some CE5 meditations and things of that nature, but remote viewing is definitely something I would consider here going forward as a possible way of getting more information on this area.
Yeah, especially if we come across the right person with a story, or think we can get something out of it. I think that's all a very good option.
Cool. So have you spoken to either of them two filmmakers about your movie and sort of what
one died.
Okay.
I think Jim Mars died. Yep. I don't know about Linda Cohen though.
I think that they're actually all dead.
That answers that question then.
They were all fairly old when they shot it, and 15 years later they all kind of met their end there and passed the baton to us, right, Don?
Oh boy. The more Montana bar we do, we're going to be in the same boat.
You guys want to see some real activity, go to the Montana bar and come to town.
So with all these sort of investigations that you're doing and the building up around this film, your documentary, is there any sort of evidence that you'd say is as good as or as interesting as the image that Don caught?
The only image I would say is the one image of those lights on that tree going up that we caught. Because what happened was we were doing here's what happened. We were doing it was last fall, September, October, something like that, and we were doing some follow-up on some of the trail cameras up there and taking some images off and things of that nature. And we were up there for several hours in this area, came down, and then Don said a couple of days later, he sends me this image like, dude, this happened like the day after he said like this happened the night that we left.
Same night we were up there.
Yeah. A couple hours later it happened. This weird, I don't know if it's UFO, paranormal, bright light flying up a tree happened right after we left, a couple hours after we left. Bizarre. Yeah. And we had and we were up there trying to film some stuff off his trail camera. He had a brand new trail camera. We were trying to film some stuff off of it, just to test it out and everything. And it wouldn't film anything, would it? It did nothing.
No, and the weird part is it caught us coming in on camera. It's actually a security camera on this ranch I work for. And then we tried to do some stuff with it, see what kind of pictures we could catch and film for the movie. And it just wouldn't work at all. We never even got a picture, anything from this. And then we left. And when I came back to the camera, it got us leaving. That's when it started working again as soon as we left. So it's very odd. Yeah, very odd.
Really weird.
So what do you guys reckon to sort of the steps forward in disclosure with the US government saying these videos are real UFO videos? We're setting up this task force to investigate the military sightings and stuff. Do you think that this is a step forward for sort of acceptance of the UFO phenomena?
I think, for me personally, I think it's just another step for the government to kind of control the narrative, is my opinion. Because it's nice to be open. You openly report something to them, and then they kind of take control. But it's just a little bit different. I think it's almost like a little bit reverse what they used to do, where they just kind of find places and then report it and keep it secret. Now it's like they're saying, "Hey, report anything to us, and we'll look into it." But I think when they look into it, they're going to use that as a way to suppress it or make it sound like it's something that's not. That's kind of my perspective.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd be on the same narrative of. I would say though, after the government released those videos of these are truly UFOs, we don't know what this is. These are our top, pilots and so on reporting on these strange entities. So with that on one side of the coin, and then my image and this documentary on the other, I would say it probably is more accepted. I don't think we'd be here right now if the government didn't release those videos last year. But it's still about the government controlling the narrative. I mean, they got to have a hand in everything. So I think so.
Do you think the general public are more open than, say, they were 10, 15 years ago to the prospect that there may be otherworldly beings or not of this world or off-world?
I would say yes. I would say it's a little further than that, though. I think the initial first big shell shock was Area 51 and Roswell. I think that was probably the biggest gate opener for what we're doing now. But I would say 10, 15 years ago, it was still pretty taboo. Now, as it gets further along and there's more sightings and more weird paranormal things, I'd say it's more generally accepted.
Yeah. There's still, like Don mentioned about the comments on the Sun article and everything else, and some of our Facebook articles. There's still a lot of people out there just say it's all bogus, no matter what you present to them. But I think there is also more people that are open-minded to the idea of it now than ever before.
How do you think social media has impacted the way people think about UFOs and the paranormal? Personally, I think especially like the Sun article and stuff like that, because I was on Facebook, Apple, all these things. I think social media helps spread the information a lot better today. The true information, things are documented, like this trail cam footage. But I also think that they also spread a lot of false information, because I've seen a lot of photos on social media with claim to alien stuff. I'm like, that just looks fake to me. And then I'll do some research, like, okay, it is fake.
Right. And right on that point too is it is a good platform for distribution, but you're also in a class of complete bullshit. And the problem is, most people, I would say in general, are closed-minded or sheep, as you would say. So whatever they're fed on their social media platform, well, that's the truth, because nobody lies, and so the guy that, believes in aliens also believed in, this image of a skinwalker at church one day, or, like it's hard to really find that fine line between truth and fiction.
So all these different sort of areas of paranormal, you mentioned like Redgate has this strong power grid line running through it that could attract these different energies. Do you think the different areas of paranormal, so UFOs, aliens, like spirits, ghosts, that sort of thing, do you reckon they are linked and they sort of relate to each other, or are they separate, completely separate, sort of, that's just a UFO, that's nothing to do with a ghost or a cryptid?
Good question.
Yeah, I don't think I've had that question before. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to the, if aliens exist, does the Bible, can the Bible exist, the aliens exist, and things of that nature. And I think it kind of crosses over some things there where You could talk about the theory that maybe aliens are just future versions of ourselves, and this is what humans look like in the future. Like that perspective. The paranormal, yeah, paranormal is weird because you're talking about something most normally, someone that a ghost, someone that passed away, a spirit, something of that nature. You think though maybe they could use the same kind of, power sources because they're going across the same kind of dimensions in some way, you know.
Yeah, it's I think you're right. I think it's got to be linked together in that aspect of high concentrated energy. I would say both probably come from that same perspective. But I don't know. That's a good one. It seems like it would be separate in my own mind, but it's probably linked together. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, say because obviously we've been doing this podcast for 18 months now, and I think what we've learned and the things we've talked about, and there's that, and the reason why I asked that question is that's something that we weren't really considered. I was always in the camp of like Loch Ness Monster is one thing, UFOs as well as a different thing, and someone seeing a ghost is a different thing. It's just they're all unusual things, but they're just separate departments. But then the more we spoke to people, and the more we've had people that have the same experiences, so that's someone that has a poltergeist experience, and then has UFO experience and abduction experience, and also in the same area, just other reports of Bigfoot sightings or UFO sightings related to Bigfoot sightings at the same time. It's really opened up my mind to thinking there is links. So sort of unplanned throughout the whole 18 months we've been doing like episodes every week. There's this underlying theme of it's all related. And I do believe that there is that relation there. And because there's areas like at Skinwalker Ranch, other areas in America, other areas around the world where there's like a high concentration of all different things going on in the same place. You've got got to ask, why is it all happening there? So it is I think it's all related.
All linked together. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good question.
Yeah, the energy's all there. Yeah, 100%.
We spoke to Edmonds, who owns Stardust Ranch, which is very similar to Skinwalker Ranch. He had ghosts. They had like Roman soldiers walking through the room. They had poltergeist activity, UFOs, aliens, abduction experiences, many, all that kind of stuff, all on the one area. And he was talking about ley lines. So in the UK, quite a high concentration of ley lines, and a lot of our paranormal activities happen where ley lines cross, or where ley lines are. There tends to be more activity than other areas. So it'd be interesting to see if sort of the Redgate area has got any kind of ley line energy lines going through, because that would point to some of the issues. But then we've spoken to other people from the US. There seem to be a lot of places in America where lots of activity happens, whereas in the UK it's not quite the same. We have the patches of paranormal hotspots. In the US, it seems to have loads of activity. And we spoke to somebody, and they about the ground being, so the area itself is just an unwell area, and it's creating negative energies. And so when you talked about the Native Americans and whether or not there was like a trauma event like the slaughters and that creating sick areas of land, that's something that's come up in podcasts as well. It's possible, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've seen the link of or the umbrella of paranormal, UFOs, cryptids, and poltergeists, all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting that it all happened in areas. So yeah, strange.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah,
but I would definitely be interested to see if there's any sort of ley lines or energy lines around Redgate or Deer Lodge to see if that link
agreed.
If that link is there.
Yeah.
So when does the documentary come out?
So our target date right now is end of August, end of September, somewhere in that time frame. We're going to finally officially release it, and it'll be, I don't have any details on that quite yet, but it's going to be officially released and it's going to be in some association with secretofredgate.com. The website is where it will be probably released on there. But yeah, end of August, end of September. So we're looking at.
So where can our listeners find out more about you guys? Do you have social medias or anything else where you can be found?
If you search hashtag Redgate Film, everything on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, everything goes back to that hashtag. It's the hashtag Redgate Film. You can look up anything or go directly to secretofredgate.com. There's stuff on there also.
Awesome.
Yeah, not me though. I stay away from social media ever since my picture hit the mirror in the sun. I'm definitely removed from that. Oh boy. It still is. Yep.
Downside of social media. So anything else you guys want to add before we wrap up?
No, I mean, this is just an ongoing, it's been a crazy experience. Everything's been nuts, but yeah, it's ongoing, and we're going to continue pushing forward and trying to figure out what's going on here. We're going to have much more content, everything else, especially when we do our investigation this summer. And yeah, just stay tuned. It's gonna be really interesting to see what we come up with.
This is just the beginning. Yeah, from here it's just we're going to learn more and do more research and keep trying to get to the bottom of this for sure.
And look forward to watching the movie and excited to see what happens next.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks for having us on. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a good
thanks
show.
for joining us.
Good questions, guys. Good questions.
Cheers, guys.
Pursuit of the Paranormal with Ash and Greg.